Now, normally when we're training for climbing, we just want to work on the training methods that work the best. And throughout my very long career of climbing, which is actually not that long, I've dabbled in a lot of exercises and methodology and whatnot. And in this video, I would like to share 4 exercises or methodology that just did not work for me in terms of getting better at bouldering. Now, I will say real quick that all the exercises that I'm gonna mention, all of them are great, fantastic. But for me, they just didn't hit me correctly to improve my climbing the way I wanted it to. Without any further ado, in no particular order, here we go. Number 1 is just climbing. Now, there have been a few pockets of time throughout my climbing career where I have just tried this just climbing approach for the sole purpose of getting better at climbing by just climbing. And I dabble with 3 different variants of this, right? The first one is just indoor climbing, which most people do. And I will say just indoor climbing when you first begin as a beginner, it works perfectly fine. You don't need to do nothing else, you will improve. But once you start to hit a little plateau, and for me, when I tried to push through that by just climbing indoors, all that really happened was I ruined my skin and not much strength was happening, even though my movement was still relatively good, but I wasn't improving. The second time I tried just climbing, I tried just board climbing. Moonboard, spray wall, any type of board, I just did just board climbing. Now, the really funny thing about me doing just board climbing was after about 2 to 3 weeks of just board climbing, my ability to pull on the wall dramatically reduced. If I was to put this in pull-up terms, before I started board climbing, I could do 20 pull-ups. After board climbing for 2 to 3 weeks, just purely board climbing for 2 to 3 weeks, I was down to like 10 pull-ups. And doing 10 pull-ups was just a struggle at that point for me. I will say my fingers maintained strength. Maybe they got in a little bit stronger. I wasn't too sure. All for sure I knew was that I literally just could not pull as hard as I could previously. Now, the third time I tried just climbing was when I had a spur of a moment to just climb nothing but outdoor bouldering predominantly, and I was just projecting on really hard climbs. And at first, yes, I did improve my outdoor climbing in terms of just the technique and technicality wise, but once I hit a really hard boulder project and I put like 10 sessions into it, I just wasn't getting any stronger, any better. And when I did climb indoors briefly, the strength from outdoors did not transfer to indoors, and I felt like I was stalled, just beating my head against the wall for no good apparent reason. In conclusion, I think my issue here is I am not the type of guy who builds muscle mass and or maintains my muscle mass and or my pulling prowess from just climbing alone. I need to do extracurricular activities if I wish to enhance those, and I need to maintain those extracurricular activities, aka training, if I wish to maintain my pulling strength. Also, I need to hang board if I want to get stronger fingers. I can't just board climb and crimp on really hard crimpy routes. 2 is campus bouldering. Now, you would think that campusing boulders would be an excellent way to build very applicable climbing strength. In my head, it works excellently well and it does make sense. But when I actually put it into practice, I just got injured. One of my elbows, don't know which one, but it was injured to the point where I couldn't do a single pull-up, nor could I do a single push-up. Now you may be thinking, Chang, that's because you were going too hard too soon. Well, let me tell you, partner, I was just campusing V0s to V2s. Everything was a jug, and I got totally wrecked. Now that's totally a my problem thing, because I have a condition called weak elbows. It just so happens that if I try to pull my entire body weight off of one arm, even for just a brief moment, there's a good amount of chance that it'll get hurt, and that good amount of chance is like 1%. Well, now 1% may not seem like that big, but if I pull 100 times on one arm in say the span of 2 to 3 weeks, it might actually really hurt itself, which is not exactly the best thing. Now, I did have an opportunity to retry campusing boulders when I was stronger in like recently, like a month ago, and therefore my elbows are stronger. And I found it wasn't doing it for me. I felt like I was just doing really convoluted pull-ups at that point in time, and I was like, why don't I just do pull-ups if I want to do this? Because I'm using jugs basically, I just think there are better options like pull-ups if you want to get good pulling, and hangboarding if you want to get strong fingers, and if you want to, this fantastic thing that combines the two called the campus board. Mayhaps you heard of it. More control, less variables, very safe relatively speaking compared to campusing just boulders, and it's even But overall, me, this is a very biased approach. I just don't like campusing boulders because when I first started when I first started climbing, I was a very flexible lad right from the bat. Therefore, I have a instinctual habit of doing like really high heels and whatnot. That's what I like to do. I just whoop. Whereas some people, they have an instinctual habit to cut feet because they're really strong. That's not me. Therefore, I'm biased against this whole campusing boulder type of ordeal movement. Number 3 is easy campus board exercises. Now, when I first started climbing, I was crazy about the campus board. I saw it, I was like, oh wow, yay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get really strong, blah blah blah. And I basically just ended up doing 1, 2, 3, maybe 1, 2, 4 if I'm lucky, or 1, 3, 4. I also did 1, 4, which at the time I thought I was really strong, but it's actually not that big of a deal. And the only thing that really happened was I just kept tearing my skin apart, tearing my calluses apart, and my hands hurt, like superficially hurt, on the skin wise hurt. And when I tried, and then when I went back to like climbing, I didn't really feel that transference of strength from campus boarding into climbing, and I couldn't tell that I was even campus boarding to begin with. Therefore, the applicability of it was like a big O0. Now, recently I became strong enough to do 147. Now, I have found that being able to have the strength of 147, that does kind of translate to my climbing, and I do feel it when I climb. Therefore, my conclusion is the campus board is good if you're really strong and you have a good base foundation and strength. But if you're really weak, doing 1, 2, 3 or ladders, I don't think is a very beneficial for you. I think you're better off just doing straight up pull-ups on those rungs as opposed to just hayaking. Number 4 is any core exercises. Now, when I climb and I hear people say, use your core, tighten your core, this route requires a lot of core, this boulder requires a lot of core tension, blah, blah. I'm just like, I really have no idea what you're talking about, because when I climb, I never actively engage my core. I never really think about it. I just move, and if my core engages, yay. If it doesn't, nay. The way I see it, core activation should be automatic. Like if you're running, your core will automatically tighten up, or if you jump, your core will automatically tighten up. That's exactly how I view it when I climb. Not to say there haven't been times when I've been climbing and I felt my core, but 99% of the time, the reason why I fail a climb has nothing to do with my core, it has to do with my fingers being weak and I couldn't hold on. So even after seeing improvements in my core strength and my core training, I couldn't feel any difference when I was actually climbing. I was like, I made my core so much stronger. Maybe I'll be able to hold myself in the cave valves or whatever. Nope, nothing, nada. Anyways, those were 4 exercises that did not work for me in terms of getting better at bouldering. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, partner.